broke the news to you yesterday, didn't we, on Sky Sports News, that he'd been diagnosed with a sickness bug, had been quarantined to his bedroom away from the rest of the squad to avoid clearly passing anything on to the other England teammates. Well, the great news is on the far right-hand side of that group, a little huddle that's just come out. There is a little team talk before they get out on training, and there you can see at the back of that group. You can't see him. Trust me, he's there. You can see Cole Palmer, can't you? That is John Stones directly behind Cole Palmer. It's always the way. The person you want to see is completely blocked. There you go, you can just about see him. But listen, big news for him, big news for England, you have to say as well, because with all of the other absences in defence, Harry Maguire not here, of course, and injury concerns to players such as Luke Shaw, who you can see on the far side there, looks fit, looks fresh, looks excited to be out there with Luke Shaw, having not played any football since the middle of February. Then it was huge news that John Stones was not training with the rest of the squad. Bear in mind that he's desperate for some game time. Only one Premier League start since mid-March. He wanted a completely clear build-up to this European Championships, and he hasn't got it. He hasn't had it. Simple as that. He had an ankle problem first and foremost. That's one of the England physio team, one of the fitness coaches, I should say, just switching on the little monitors that every player has in their back that monitors their conditioning, monitors the sort of yards they cover, so they can work out the load that they should be doing in training. I suspect John Stones' load in training will be pretty reduced today. The fact that we're seeing him out there now for the warm-up, which is all we get to see, remember, that's the only thing the UEFA make the nations do, is be available for the first 15-minute warm-up. We don't know whether John Stones will be taking part in the serious bit of training after today. I suspect England will be treating him pretty gingerly. They'll be being quite careful with him. The medics will be monitoring him. But the medics are clearly happy enough to see him out on the grass. They think he's not contagious anymore. They think that they've got enough fluids into him. And they think he's available to be out there, which is huge news and great news for Gareth Southgate. You have to say, overnight, that change in condition makes it much more likely that John Stones will be available to start for England against Serbia in their Euros opener on Sunday. He looks fine, doesn't he? He looks absolutely fine. But just to reiterate, we don't know how much of the real part of training he's going to take part in once we get told our cameras have to turn off. And to that end, we still have to look at the alternatives to John Stones in those centre-back positions. Fully expect Mark Gahey to be on from the start, whether or not Jones is fit. He's made himself the natural understudy, the first choice whenever Maguire or Stones isn't available. And he's been outstanding for England in recent times, I want to say, Mark Gahey. I think that's him on the far right-hand side, but we'll try and find him. It's always a bit of a game when they're so far between them. There's Eze, there's Gahey right at the back, look, next to Jared Bowen. But yeah, a huge season for him, and the fact that he is going to be almost a guaranteed starter for England in his first major tournament is a real boon for the Crystal Palace man. But if Stones isn't fit, or if he has to come off early in the game, who might England go for next? The most obvious candidates are, you can see Joe Gomez at the back of that group of three. I think he's considered maybe more as a left-back option to cover if Kieran Trippier isn't fit, or if Luke Shaw doesn't make it. But Ezri Konsa, you can see at the back of that group, look back right, and Ezri Konsa has had an outstanding season for Aston Villa, being brilliant right across the back four, and that's where England have used him. England have used him at right back, but his natural position is centre-back. You wonder whether it's him that would come in for John Stones or Lewis Dunk. Lewis Dunk spoke to the newspapers yesterday, and some really interesting quotes from him. He said, "I'm not here just to make up the numbers. I'm here to play. I want to play." And so while he, of course, didn't wish any ill on his England teammates and John Stones, there's Lewis Dunk, look, the Brighton man, he clearly wants to play in his first major tournament as well. He's had to be so patient, Lewis Dunk. He's won only 8 caps since 2018. That's when he made his England debut. Brighton fans have been clamouring to him to be involved with England much more regularly. Well, he's getting his chance now, and with injuries elsewhere, and still, I think you have to say, some fitness concerns over John Stones, he could be a key player for England against Serbia, especially against the physicality and height of Alexander Mitrovic. 58 goals for his country. The physical battle between Lewis Dunk and Alexander Mitrovic could be really important. You wonder what Gareth Southgate is thinking there. But huge news that John Stones is back. A big boost to him and to Gareth Southgate.
John Stones is out there training, and 26 players are out. Of course, yesterday there was no John Stones because he had illness and was staying away from the rest of the players, so that didn't spread. As we understand it, he was a bit of a sickness bug, but he's well recovered. I've just been watching him at close quarters, and he looks absolutely fine. He's wearing a white bib just behind us with a team in the middle, running and doing his warm-ups ahead of his training session.
Finished. Bullingham told us that they will sit down. There are plans for the FA executives and Gareth Southgate to sit down quickly after the end of this tournament and decide where they go from here. Importantly, Southgate's contract doesn't expire until December, so there is time. But
he looks much more comfortable than he did just a few weeks ago. He's been back on grass for almost a week now, and we saw him out here yesterday and in the open training session that we saw 90 minutes worth of him, albeit towards the end he wasn't functioning at the same kind of high level as the rest of the players, but actually we're expecting Gareth Southgate to name all 26 squad players for that opening game against Serbia, which means that Luke Shaw will potentially be on the bench, and if the game is going how Gareth Southgate wants it to go, potentially we could see Luke Shaw getting some minutes earlier than we were expecting. Gareth Southgate has said, depending on how he moves in training, how he gets on, how his recovery is going, bearing in mind he's not played any football since February, that's 5 months now, which is a long time to be out, that they could try and bring him on potentially for that opening game rather than what we were originally told, which was that he would be available potentially for Denmark, which is the second game down in Frankfurt. Of course, that's going to depend A, on how he trains the next few days, B, how the game against Serbia does go, but of course he needs some proper match minutes, doesn't he? So if there is the opportunity to put him on and it's available to them, I think they'll use it.
It's what all big organisations do. They're lead people, they have succession plans in place. And he also implied that the FA would seek a British manager to succeed Gareth Southgate when the time comes. He said, we've got 2 senior coaches, meaning Gareth Southgate and Serena Wiegmann. One of them is English, one is not, he said, but I think any federation in the world would always want to have a pool of top homegrown talent, both playing and managing at any time. So we got some interesting hints yesterday from the boss of the FA about Gareth Southgate's future, but nothing concrete. Him and the rest of his executives will sit down with Gareth Southgate once this tournament is finished, and that's when we'll find out what Gareth Southgate's future holds.
Well, why wouldn't they? They wouldn't be part of the squad if they didn't think they had an opportunity to make an impact in some way. You know, training players are just as important as starters, but actually when there's 5 substitutes to use, if a problem happens, they need to be ready immediately. I was talking to Brentford striker Ivan Toney about just that yesterday. He and Ollie Watkins are preparing to be ready in case something happens to Harry Kane, or in case a game needs unlocking and they're demanded to go on. And it will be exactly the same for the centre-backs, regardless of experience. They've got brilliant Premier League pedigree themselves anyway. And when you look at the fact they haven't had any experience, neither Harry Maguire and John Stones back in 2018, in terms of minutes, that they were a relatively new centre-back pairing themselves that went on and got England to the semi-final of the World Cup. So, you know, these players will be ready. Sitting down with Aston Villa's entry concert later on today on TalkSport, and I'll be asking him exactly that. But what I have found whenever I've spoken to any of the players in this group is the confidence they all exude, and the fact they are desperate to get on the pitch and properly be involved and help England in this tournament, and they're not shy of doing that.
Hasn't played a lot of football, only got 25 minutes total in those 2 warm-up games. He continues his recovery from the injury that kept him out of Arsenal's final game of the season. He's England's first choice right winger, simple as that. When he's fit, is he fit? If it's not him, could it be Cole Palmer? And then the first sub, could it be Everett? That's what I think England are thinking about. It's what Gareth Southgate is thinking about. But away from the wide attacking positions, of course, we talk so much about Harry Kane. Of course, he's England's number 9. He's the man who leads the line, and he offers a huge experience and sheer talent. The number of goals he scored for Bayern Munich this season is outrageous in his first season in the Bundesliga. But if Kane were not to be available, and he's still building up match fitness, by the way, and a bit more sharpness after that back injury which kept him out for the best part of a month. What about Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney? Well, they offer something very, very different, don't they? Watkins and Toney. From Toney's point of view, let's look at Ollie Watkins. If we move right over to the far right-hand side, look in the white shirt, right behind the goal he is now, so he's just moved to the left, Chris, just to the left of that goal. Chris, keep going a bit further left, and you'll see Ollie Watkins, there he is with the ball now. Outstanding for Aston Villa this season. What a season he's had. He's the best of his career by a million miles. 27 goals, 13 assists in all competitions. And he's a very different option to Kane and to Tony, you have to say. He's very mobile, he makes some very clever runs off the ball, he finds space. He's always been very difficult to defend against because of those, and this season his numbers are outstanding. So would he be the first in line to come off the bench and replace Harry Kane, or would it be Ivan Toney? Not in the same form as Ollie Watkins, I think you have to say, when we're talking about Ivan Toney. His numbers aren't the same in terms of goals and assists, but of course he missed a big chunk of the season because of that betting ban delivered to him by the FA. There's Tony, the Brentford man. But he is probably, of all the three options, the most traditional number line, a proper target man. Stays high up the pitch, scores goals in between the goalposts, as a lot of people in football talk about. And the likes of Foden and Saka and Bellingham will all like that. The ball players, Foden there, look, but when he looks for players making runs, he looks up and he expects Ivan Toney to be in the right place. And if you look at Ivan Toney's stats, he scored 4 in his first 5 games after that ban for betting, but he didn't score in his last 12 Premier League games of the season. So he's probably not the most in form of all of those options, but we know he's brilliant with penalties. We know he's a natural goal scorer, and we know Gareth Southgate thinks incredibly highly of him. So with all that in mind, all of us will be racing through Gareth Southgate's mind in the build-up to this game. Who am I going to start with? But who are my options as well? Because it may well be, especially with a lot of players needing game time, not in fully match-ready condition, that they might use all 5 subs from the bench. And so we talk a lot about the starting 11. The 11 that ends the game could be just as interesting from an England perspective. Can you get a bit of Gallagher, mate? Thanks, Lappos. Really well done, Chris. You can get a bit of Trent Alexander-Arnold, because that'll make the defence. How was the time like? We've still got 3 now.
Yeah, I've only got a limited zoom on this side.
Just found a wide group. Oh, yeah, go on.
There's no digital zoom. No digital zoom.
Nah, on this one.
Very empty.
Lovely shot.
Hold it to the other way.
Once Palmer behind him, and that'll do us. Perfect, mate. Well done. Thank you.
Last 30 seconds. Just so you know.
I think that's it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.